Alrighty, we'll see if that got through the technical difficulties here to start this off. So we are out here tonight, Whitetails and Whiskey, episode 4. Checking the audios really quick. See if we're all good and linked up. Alrighty, we'll see if that got through. Alright, we're all good to go on Facebook. We're live. YouTube, we are live as well. So thank you everybody for tuning in tonight. Nate's a little behind tonight, stuck in traffic at the moment. So we're going to get this rolling tonight, pick out our whiskey, and then get going with our conversation tonight. So I got Nate joining me again. He'll be along here at some point here shortly, and we'll get rolling with the conversation when he gets here. So the whiskey for when Nate arrives tonight, we did Bird Dog Apple last time. So we will do a Bird Dog Blackberry to start this episode tonight. Couple glasses. Brand new bottle of Bird Dog Blackberry. Just a little sipping whiskey. Shooter to start the night off. So again, this is live Q&A. We do have a couple topics ranging from how to save your food plots here, even though we are just a couple days away from season. Different issues you might be having with your food plots and how to solve that, kind of specifically turnips. I've been getting a lot of questions about here in the last week or so. Last minute tree stand stuff. Real estate agent stuff, data, just a couple stuff I've written down on the agenda sheet tonight to keep the conversation rolling. But brand new bottle, and I'll have one sitting here waiting for Nader when he gets here. So and coming down the stairs as we speak is the man, the myth, the legend himself. That's all right. All good. What do we got tonight? Bird Dog Blackberry. So, yeah.
Very good.
All good in the frame. Everything's good with that. Perfect. But, so here's to Whitetails and Whiskey, episode 4. That's a good one.
You like that blackberry?
It is good.
It's almost like mom's cough syrup when I was sick, when I was younger.
I hope it's a little bit better than that.
Soothes the throat a little bit.
Yeah. Yep. So what are you thinking for your next one? You want a Busch Light or you want to drop into the Tangerine?
Well, we might as well just go with Tangerine.
Tangerine it is.
Tangerine. And I guess it might be a little pun for Mike, but Crafty Ales and Lagers, one of my favorite places to...
It's actually where we just came from. That's why we're late tonight.
Yeah, it's kind of why I'm late. I got tied up talking to some locals.
Yeah.
But, great beer, good company, good place to stop. Phelps, New York. If you're around.
Have a pint. It's a good time. Good people. There's music tonight, so it was all good all the way around. So, got a couple comments rolling in on the... Then I'm going to butcher this pint pour.
Derek. Hey, brother. What's up, Derek?
Good to see you, Derek. Love you, buddy.
Oh, I think Derek's the number one fan out of our,
5? Top 5 all day.
Bad. Derek's definitely number one.
Killing it, man. But, no. So, I'm interested to see. He said he came down into town when I was talking to him the other day about his elk hunt. He said he came close, no cigar. And
Derek, we need a rating on these 2 pours.
Yeah.
Before we get started. This is Ben's pour. This is my pour. We just need to rate them.
Yeah.
But either way, Derek's elk hunt.
Yep. So I know you're saying it was getting down in the 20s, for the start of the day, and then getting up to 70. That's a big temperature swing, man.
Yeah, that's a huge temperature swing.
Yep. So yeah, no, I know it's a horrible pour. Thank you.
So, but yeah. So, Derek, what did you experience out there when you were out there doing everything? I mean, anything out of the ordinary? Any funny stories? What do you got?
Yeah. So, no, I know you had some stuff come up with family and stuff like that. So that makes it always,
It's always tough,
tricky, and makes it, unfortunately it was cut short. But we'll have to get out there. Maybe we'll have to make a big trip out to Idaho and down in that area and do a Western hunt with them, and not be talking about it on the podcast, but sitting there in Idaho talking about it. I think that'd be a good time.
That would be a good time. I would enjoy that.
I would very much enjoy that.
I actually get to see different parts of the country. It's something I would like to do more with my life.
Yep. So, but no, it's definitely something I would like to do it. The only reason I'm kind of hesitant to do it is I don't want to fall in love with it and then have another money pit for a hobby of going out west and hunting. So
I'm not too worried about that. I'm more worried about having the money now to go do it.
Yeah. Well, you got brand new kid.
Honestly,
yeah,
it's a
different animal on itself. But yeah, Derek said he's on elk every day, just couldn't make it happen. Yeah, dude, that's what I've been hearing from a lot of people is they've been on elk and it might just not have been the bull they were looking for, or whatever it might have been. But I've heard everybody's been having pretty good hunts out there. Seen a couple people tag, obviously, on Facebook and stuff like that. But I know it's not easy, especially with archery equipment.
I mean, I don't know what everybody's shooting. I mean, if I was out elk hunting, I would probably at least be practicing up to 50. But I mean, I semi do that with whitetail, but honestly, 30 yards ideal. I mean, Derek, what do you think?
Derek says he's going to be back on the 5th. I'll find you guys. So you can get an over-the-counter New York tag. You can buy everything in New York if he wants to hunt when he's in town. I think that'd be a slamming time to go to the deer shed.
Bring Derek out to the deer shed?
Oh, yeah. Bring him on the podcast.
I got to get my kegerator fixed.
Kegerator? Yeah, we get the whole thing going.
It's leaking CO2 all over the place today.
No, absolutely. But, no, that's...
Hell yeah, Derek. You're more than welcome.
Yeah, no. Like I said, we could... I mean, we're not chasing elk.
No. No, I mean, I can't guarantee. I mean, I guarantee you'll probably see deer, but I can't guarantee you're going to see anything that's astronomical.
Yeah, right. Yeah, practice up to 110, but all the elk were within 40 yards. So, yeah, he had them on them, but just got to get that right shot and angle, man.
110?
Yep. There's some Cam Hanes stuff going on.
All right, Derek. You're on another level.
Well, that's what that Western stuff, I think, I hear a lot of people talking about that is, some people shooting stuff 60, 70, 80 yards, and that's like almost on the normal, for some of that Western game, just because of the open space and everything like that. So,
yeah, I bet you it's a lot harder to judge yardage with that just open view of things. I mean, I've never been out to Idaho or anything, but
I know how hard it is in a field.
I mean, when I go out to my stand, I mean, I usually hunt within 30 yards with a bow. And when I hop in my stand, I always take my rangefinder and I, pinpoint a couple trees or a couple
trails,
a stone that really sticks out or anything, just to kind of get a judgment of, if the deer does come this way or the deer usually comes this way, how far that they can be, so I can calculate it quick in my head so I can draw my bow back and get a shot.
Yeah. So we actually had a comment come in from Mrs. Pierce. What kind of physical condition does Derek need to make sure he's in to be prepared for elk hunts? I often hear about people needing to prepare their bodies for months before going on those kind of hunts. So I know a lot of guys that, depends. I know Derek was doing it solo, so he doesn't have horses, like a lot of these outfitted hunts. And even the guys that go on outfitted hunts, say that it's a pretty good haul to pack back up in there and do all that stuff. So I know the elevation screws with a lot of people. The
Yeah,
lack of oxygen.
the change of oxygen.
Yep.
And all that. Derek's an animal, though. I mean,
oh, he's ridiculously in shape.
Yeah,
and still puts
so
me under
Derek,
the table.
what do you got to say to that comment?
Yeah.
So what do you do to prepare yourself?
Jiu-jitsu 5 days a week, gym 3 days a week, but I'm not right in the head. Gotcha.
So that sounds like a whole lot of
That's a whole lot of routine, man.
Do you work? I mean,
well, like I said, he works for Fish and Game, so he can do some of his scouting when he's.
That is his job to prepare himself for what he's doing. So.
Yep. And like I said, he's stocking those back mountain lakes and all that stuff. So he's doing a lot of scouting and glassing and driving all the time. So, I mean, he's kind of got the best of it, that he can go back up in some of these areas and sample streams and lakes. And
so basically, scout. Derek lives the life, and he can work out for his job and scout game.
Yep. But no,
that's awesome, man. Good for you.
That's discipline and a regiment. Getting to it. And it's no different than, like we were saying, last week, getting people out there to shoot their bow right now, right before season. Some people haven't touched them at all, and I think that's a big thing, to shoot your bow 3-4 times a week if you can.
Yeah, I think that's, I don't know. It's, you definitely need to get out there, at least throw some arrows, see where you're at, see how comfortable you are. I mean, me personally, I'm not a big fan of, it was sighted in last year, so it's good this year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that. It's all muscle memory, and I don't really think that.
You got to put some bag time on it.
I mean, people's physique and everything changes from year to year, so that's going to change your anchor point. That's going to change everything.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you gained weight, whether you lost weight, whether you did this, it's all it's all a big thing. So honestly, it's a good idea to go out there and just throw a few arrows and see where you're at, just so you're a little more confident when that opportunity arises.
Yeah, no, and like I was saying last time, I didn't realize how tight my shoulder was until I went to a chiropractor and got it all figured out and stretched out right.
Chiropractor. Miss Brittany Fisk gets a shout out. She's amazing. She's definitely done a lot of work with me, and I turned Ben on to her.
Mm-hmm. And your wife goes there. My wife goes there.
Yeah, she's Ben didn't even know his wife went there, and then he got the tip off from me, and his wife Hannah's like, "Oh, that's the same chiropractor I go to." Either way, but she is phenomenal. She does a great job. She really focuses on the patient and what they need, and she's good. So chiropractor is honestly not a bad idea to get your body in line and help you out with archery season.
Yeah. And a lot of it wasn't even necessarily pain. It was just like tightness or, the inability to make certain motions or something like that. And she doesn't just go, like a chiropractor, like you think, popping you and cracking you all different ways. She uses like a muscle stimulator tool to like vibrate the muscles and stimulate blood flow, suction cups, there's, some shoulder massage with me specifically on my right shoulder. All that stuff was, really, really good, to get me back into, and I mean, you saw it at the end of the year and going into the Finanza, dude, I started shooting way better, and my groups are super tight this year.
Yeah. Before you started to go see Brittany, you were a little off than what you normally were from what I've known from you shooting.
My usual normal dipped. Yep.
But after you went and saw her, you got realigned and everything, and your groups were definitely tighter. You're shooting a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like I'm a lot steadier. There's a lot less muscle fatigue because my muscles don't have to work as hard to compensate for the other stuff going on. So I think that's huge is, having your body be right, whatever it is, like Derek, doing his workouts and all that stuff to be able to, have the discipline to shoot those distances, or having the chiropractor work to feel comfortable, shooting your bow even, I think it's huge. And I would never have thought of that, dude. I thought I messed up something inside my shoulder. And she's like, oh, no, there's like these two muscles on the front of your shoulder that, you're probably pissed off. And, we're going to try to get them unpissed off. And it was amazing.
Derek's talking about some shoulder bands.
Mm-hmm.
or
like kind of resistance bands kind of stuff. So yeah, so usually when I go out, I'll go, basic stretches across the back of my shoulder. I'll stretch down here to get like, the back side of my shoulder, stuff like that. If I'm, shooting, once in a while, I'll throw those stretches on it, but I don't have like an armband or anything like that. Do you do anything like that really right off, or?
No. I do know my wife was pregnant. She used some bands to try and relieve some ligaments in her stomach that were
getting tight.
I think they called it rock tape. Rock tape is what she used, and I guess it seemed to help her out a lot.
Yep.
So if anybody's having struggles with anything like that,
yeah. Wow. No, it definitely it does feel more like Derek says, like a physical therapy type work, and I think it is, because she'll literally sit down with you and ask you all these questions to figure out what exactly.
She's great.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's not like hey, come in here, let me
she
crack
takes
you.
the next step as a chiropractor. She doesn't just come in there and just do the same routine with everybody and just gets her money and blah blah blah.
Yep.
And it seems like that's what a lot of chiropractors. But she actually sits there and tries. She takes her notes to each individual. She pulls each file up when you show up. Your own personal file. She takes care of it. And honestly, she does great.
Yep.
It really has helped me in work, my everyday life, how I feel, energy. It's great. But let's get off the chiropractic topic.
Yeah.
Let's get back
into the nitty gritty for deer season.
Hunting, deer season. Raccoons. I love raccoons. Anybody got a raccoon story?
A raccoon story?
I like raccoons. I mean, I got a picture of a raccoon staring down a buck the other day, and I wish I could flash show it to you, but we haven't gotten that
technically advanced.
Yeah. But it was sweet. The raccoon was about 6-7 feet up a tree, and he was just eye to eye with a buck. He was a decent 6 point, probably 3.5-year-old. They were all staring each other down. Raccoon looking down, buck looking up. They're staring at each other. Nice mock scrape we set up, and it was a great picture. I love it. I almost thought about framing it.
Yeah, no, I like those. I like those mock scrapes. And that brings up a good topic that a lot of people have thought I was almost bullshitting, and almost you did too when I first brought it up to you with, hanging a vine for a mock scrape, and stuff like that, dude. I've got some of my.
I was when you first brought it up to me. I was a little indecisive about it. I was like, I don't know. I've heard this stuff, and I just feel like it's blown out of proportion. I'm like, are you just feeding something up?
Yeah, no. So we're tying vines up in trees and stuff like that, dude. And I've got some wild pictures and videos. Everything from coyotes playing with them to raccoons jumping up on them. I mean, you had that cool picture with your raccoon and your story with that 6-pointer and stuff like that. And then we've had tons of deer work them. Everything from fawns to does to
deer. Deer definitely hit them a little more as long as you have them on a main trail.
Yep.
A deer will find it. I mean, their nose is their number one. It functions, I guarantee, like 75% of everything they do in their life is their nose. So when they're walking down a trail and you just randomly throw up a mock scrape, the deer is going to check it out. And it's going to sniff around it. And I don't know, this is a whole nother topic and a whole nother series of things we can get into, is that I piss in my own scrapes. I use my own piss. I sit there, set my own mock scrape up. I piss in it.
Or Eliza does.
Or Eliza or Ben or, whoever's out there and actually hasn't pissed in the tank. But anyways, I mean, after, 15 minutes?
Yeah, definitely within 24 hours, but within, an hour.
It's really, I don't know what the time frame is, but it all turns to, actually, apparently, it's scientifically proven that it just turns into like an ammonia.
Yep.
And all piss smells the same after a while. So it's actually just kind of a check-in point for animals. And it might be a check-in point, as what you were saying, you get fox, predators, and all that other stuff. I mean, they might get curious and smell it and then come over and be like, oh, what's going on here? But I definitely think that, peeing in your own scrape is effective. I don't think there's really a need for going out and spending all that money on different scents.
Scents and lures and urines.
Lures depending on the time of year.
Yeah. No, I'll agree to that. But I think if you're doing it in your mock scrapes, I actually saw a guy on TikTok of all places talking about just carrying a gallon of water when he did his mock scrapes, and he would just dump, a half a pint or a pint of water in it. And his idea is just to have a moist ground smell, versus a urine smell. So I've never tried that specifically, but he carries water when he does all his mock scrapes and dumps water in them.
Is he successful?
Yep. I don't know, man. I mean, I'll tell you what. I went and pulled some cameras throughout the rain.
So now, are the deer smelling the moisture part, or the deer smelling him doing whatever he's doing?
I'm not sure with that, with the way that breaks down with it. But I could see that, when you've seen a deer in the woods, or if you've seen a dog and stuff like that, and they lick their nose, the reason they're licking that is to pick up on scent better. So maybe there's some connection with that, with the moisture in the ground, leading to more. Because, I mean, if you look at it any time, I mean, how many times have you gone to a farmer's field that they've just recently turned up, fresh moist dirt, and the deer tracks all over it the next morning? I mean, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see some value in it. But if you got to pee, definitely I'd say you could pee right in your own scrapes. Doesn't hurt nothing. Your wife's peed in them. My wife's peed in them. We've peed in them. I mean, you name it. Anybody that's been out there with me has probably peed in a scrape at some point.
So I got a little topic.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of feed off the moisture thing. But it is that moisture will hold scent.
Mm-hmm.
Moisture will hold that. So if you plan on going out there and doing, I don't know, some basic work or whatever you're doing around your property, and you have a buck on there that you're really focusing on, I wouldn't necessarily go out there on a wetter day, because that moisture will hold your scent longer than going out there on a dry day. So just a little tip, and things that I've learned, especially with working with hounds.
Yep.
With coon hunting and all that.
Well, you almost want those rainy nights, like the drizzly.
Well, it all depends on what you're going for. But for deer, and you're trying to defeat their number one defense, which is their nose, I wouldn't necessarily try and go out there and tinker around after a rain.
Yep. Yeah. So I think that's a good piece to, I say that I pull cameras or, stuff like that on a rainy day. But when I say rainy, I mean like monsoon. I mean like half-inch plus of rain downpours, something that's going to wash scent away. When you get into those drizzly days like we kind of had today, where it kind of rained on, rained off, rained on, rained off very little bit, like days like that, dude, their nose is just going to be working for them like crazy. Every smell in the woods is going to explode to them. That's going to freshen it back up, which is why I think after those rain events, you have a good opportunity at bucks on their feet. I've shot a couple deer and bucks specifically right after rains moved through. My dad's big 9-point that he's got, he killed right after a rain. He actually sat in the truck because he didn't want to get his gun wet.
The bucks moving through looking for that moist scent.
Oh, yeah.
They know the scent's hot. They're moving through.
Yep. So my dad shot that big 9-pointer at my grandmother's those handful of years ago.
You get a big heavy rain, get out there about a half hour before the rain ends, and sit where you think that big guy might be working through, and you might have a shot at him working through it and get a shot at him.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and that's how it was with my dad that morning. He waited for that rain to die down. He slipped up in the stand, and then that buck came cruising through. So I think that's a great time. And I saw the cameras. I was out at the farm doing a couple food plot tidy-ups, yesterday. And I pulled a couple cards and looked at them, dude. And with this rain we've had over the last, 4 or 5 days off and on, dude, I had good bucks, daylight, checking scrapes, working scrapes lit up, opened up everywhere, man, with the rain.
Well, it all goes back to what I was saying before, is that, the scent is just that much more profound.
Mm-hmm. It pops.
I mean,
It's
when,
easier to
when there's
pick up.
moisture on it, them deer are gonna anything, coyotes, fox, anything that's looking for anything. After a rain, there's any moisture on, they're gonna heavy dew, anything that moisture will pop the next morning.
Yep. So Derek says, had deer come in when I'm pissing, not sure what the smell or the sound of that intrigued them. Hey.
That could just be coincidence.
Yep. Well, one of my dad's biggest bucks he
might,
shot.
Yeah. Oh, wee buck.
The whole wee buck.
But Derek, I mean, I definitely think there's some value to that. I see it more with does. If you could comment back, that was a doe or a buck that moved in on you. But I definitely see that more with does. If I piss out of the stand, like if I set my stand up and there's definitely a close stand next to it, I definitely try and piss down the next tree, just so there's not so much noise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's being all does. Yeah, exactly. So I've had the same experience with that, and I definitely think that there is something to that, whether it's the sound or the smell or anything like that. And my uncle, my uncle Josh, who I kind of talked about last time in the last episode, I mean, he brought up that also, and he was kind of experimenting with that, and he thought it was funny that every time he peed on a tree, that it was just like within a half hour a doe showed up.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I guess I'm still in the works with that and my own personal feeling about it. But yeah, I definitely think there is something to actually peeing on a tree and deer showing up. I really have no explanation for it at this point. But if you're in the woods and you definitely have a way to keep it quiet, I mean, I would definitely.
Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily, like you said, though, I wouldn't be afraid to, like you said, pee off your stand. I know back in the day, everyone was like, "Oh, you better have your piss bottle with you or whatever to to pee in." Dude, if you gotta piss in the stand, dude, it's easy for us, not so easy for like our wives or something like that, or some of the girls are out there hunting. But
it's easy if you can hang thing.
Yeah, but no, it's one of those things where I've never been afraid to really pee out of a stand. Obviously I'll get up, look around, make sure there's no deer coming around or around me. And sometimes I've had to hold it for a while while I've had a bunch of deer, in and around me. But yeah.
But yeah, Derek, I definitely agree with just squat and spray. I like your. There you go, Derek.
Just squat and spray, man.
There you go. But
and I think Derek needs to be the sponsor for bottling his own piss of the Whitetails and Whiskey podcast.
We could probably work that in. Yeah. But definitely, Derek, there is something about what we were just talking about with the does coming in, and I think we definitely connected on that. That was something that you and me, both kind of been experimenting on, and it's a real thing. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of why. I'm not really sure why.
Yeah, we can't ask the deer why it works, but it works.
Yeah, I can't just get out of the stand and be like, why did you come to that? But
yeah.
I definitely think that's a real thing. That has actually been something in my repertoire that I've been trying to figure out, trying to focus on, experimenting with. And it's definitely weird that definitely does come to it, and I'm glad you agree with that and you've done that, because that is definitely something that I am intrigued with.
Well, I think it boils back to something that, gosh, I can't remember right now who said it or heard talking about it, but if you're looking at the deer as like a pyramid, okay, so your mature bucks, if they hear you, see you, smell you, any one of those, they're gone.
Nah,
okay,
I don't believe that.
Mature bucks, like I'm talking the oldest buck in the neighborhood.
Yeah,
they see or hear, smell you, they're probably going to be gone.
I think they know how to evade you. I don't really think they're gone.
Well, they're not going to approach your stand if they see, hear you, or smell you.
Right,
is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So, and then next on that list, you have your, let's just say, mature does, where they need 2 senses of confirmation before they booger. How many times have you had that doe stare at you where she saw you move but she can't smell you. She's got to circle down. She needs 2 confirmations to leave. So the mature buck needs 1. The
If a
mature
doe
doe needs
blows,
2.
that means she has 2 confirmations of your scent control.
Yep.
That means you're
Yep.
busted.
And then fawns. How many stupid fawns have we had where they're looking right at you? They're clearly downwind of you. You know, you almost got to fucking throw something at them to get them out from underneath you.
They're a baby. They're learning.
Yeah. So I think a little bit of that urine thing ties into that kind of pyramid of, you know, senses that they got to key off on to know that there's a danger. I think does are kind of generally almost curious of that first scent, where it's something different and they got to almost investigate it, and then they're going to try to see what made that scent, come investigate it to, you know, see if they can hear something to confirm that, or they're going to try to get closer to you to try to get a better, you know, scent cone picture of, you know, what they're smelling. I think that could be a lot with the does, because I've had does catch a little bit of wind when my wind's a little shifty in a stand, and then had her come in, and I could almost watch her trying to figure out where exactly I was by how she was kind of zigzagging through the woods, and I could tell the wind was a little switchy. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a lot of it. I think it's just the curiousness of some of those does trying to figure it out, to piece that whole piece together, you know, basically to get that double confirmation that there's something there. I think that could be a part of it. That's my opinion, though.
Yeah, I think you're right on there.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely was scent.
Yeah.
But Derek here, he's going back to his elk hunting, and he's talking about raking trees and branch up and rub the tree you're in. Derek, honestly, I mean, if it's in the dead of the rut, at least if I believe it's in the dead of the rut, because it seems like many people have different opinions on that. Mm-hmm. If I believe it's in the dead of the rut, yes, I will make a lot of noise when I'm up in the stand to try and make it sound like deer are fighting. Anytime else in the year, no, and I do not have much experience with elk or mule deer.
Also convinced mule deer does are dumber than normal whitetail does. That's possible. I've never hunted muleys. I mean, you and me are pretty. I've only hunted New York.
I've only hunted New York.
Right.
I've never hunted outside of it.
Right. So, I mean, we don't have a lot to compare it to. I definitely have had some really dumb. I had one on my grandmother's a couple years ago, dude. She literally saw me, walked up to the stand, and then laid down under my stand. And it was a mature doe too. It wasn't a fawn or nothing. And I don't know. I couldn't bring myself to shoot her either. But I was
been local for a few years and was comfortable with your scent around.
That's possible. So we did have a couple things come in on the Facebook line.
What do we got?
We got Russell Jacobs. I'm wondering what whiskey goes best with these type of gatherings. I'm assuming he's talking about our whitetails and whiskey. So this week we did Bird Dog Blackberry was our whiskey.
We're hitting the Bird Dog pretty hard the past 2 weeks.
Yep. And I know you're not as big of a whiskey guy as I am.
That's fine. I mean, I'll sip on a little bit with the rocks.
Yep.
I mean, that's not a problem.
Yep. But yeah, we did Bird Dog. I've done the Wild Turkey 101 and the Granddad 114 are the 4 that I've done so far on these 4 episodes. So I got a few more up and around, you know.
Oh, we got plenty of. Well, Ben has plenty of whiskey to go around.
Yeah, but no. So I enjoy. You know, we enjoy the Bird Dog a lot down here at the bar. It's a good one to break up a couple beers and stuff like that with a stipper or shooter or whatever. I got turned on to that in college, and that's stuck with me ever since.
I mean, ever since I started hanging out with you, I mean, the Bird Dog was kind of
always been around.
Our little shooter. Mm-hmm. So
yep,
it's kind of. I guess we're going through the flavors, which is perfectly fine.
Yep. And then the other comment was Steve Westfall dropped in and said hi.
Steve, what's up, brother? Glad you're chiming in. Those seeds you let me throw out on your property, they're popping great. I mean, I'm getting a lot of green looks underneath the beans. So we'll see how it turns out. We'll see how the deer react to it.
Hopefully take a couple deer off, take some pressure off his crops. That's always appreciated.
Yeah. I think that's a love and hate thing with farmers and hunters. It's always stressful dealing with the hunters, but then I guess they also take some deer off that might be intruding on their crops.
Right. So Derek says we also get whitetail bucks breeding with mule deer does. Whitetail bucks are way more aggressive during the rut. Never heard that.
Animals.
I've never heard that the whitetail bucks are more aggressive than muleys.
Derek, yeah, I've never heard that either. So I got a question for Derek. Do a whitetail buck? Obviously, I'm sure they do. Whitetail bucks and mule deer bucks get in a confrontation over a doe, whatever the doe is, either species, and who normally wins? Do you know? Have you seen?
Yeah, that's something that's definitely interesting. If they're going, if they can interbreed, or even if they can't necessarily breed, but it gets them where the point where they're fighting over does, even if they can't successfully make fawns from it or whatever. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't looked into the genetics of it. Whitetail bucks win 90% of the time. It's a good time to be a whitetail buck.
Mean bastards. That's why you hunt whitetail bucks over muleys.
Yeah. Huh.
I don't know about that, but I would love to go out and kill a nice mule deer buck. But whitetail bucks win 90% of the time.
And they're way smaller as well.
Derek, do you think it's the aggressiveness? Because it's obviously not the size, because mule deer are definitely bigger than whitetails, right?
Yep, that's what he's saying. The whitetails are way smaller, even though they win 90% of it.
It's the attitude.
It's the size of the fight and the dog.
Yeah, I was just about to say, it's the fight and the dog, not the
dog in the fight.
Not the dog in the fight.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so don't put your money on nothing.
Yeah.
But
Russ Jacobs says those are all good choices, guys. I'm assuming talking about the whiskey. And then Steve says the cows are liking the turnips too.
yeah. Steve Westfall is a great friend of mine, and him and his wife Janie, and they give me a great opportunity to lease a little piece of their land with a slight small agreement, and the neighboring farm. Their cows like to get out and they like to come over, so I get a lot of pictures of cows.
Yeah, you got jerseys, Holsteins, you got everything, man.
I got them all. Actually, I got a ton more pictures of cows than what I just sent Steve over that whole thing. But I don't know. It's kind of funny. It's indifferent. I guess that's between Steve and his neighboring farmer. Yep. But yeah, it is kind of hilarious to get a cow on the trail cam every once in a while.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of meat for the freezer.
Wow. If I could hunt them, yeah. I'd probably take a ribeye over a backstrap, but
right. Right. I mean, there were some good looking cows.
A couple of them weren't too bad.
Yeah. And then DJ, DJ from Thompson.
DJ Thompson?
Yep, he commented.
DJ's in here.
He says lower man wins. Maybe that's why the Whitetails win. They got that lower leverage.
Ooh, DJ's going back to football camp.
That's a good point.
I think I played football with DJ a little bit.
Yeah,
I don't remember if we played together or not.
That's a good point. Low man wins.
I think low man might win on that, DJ. I mean, I like your perspective on that.
Heck yeah,
I definitely do. DJ's a great guy.
Yep. So
fun to hang out with, a great guy to party with.
Oh yeah,
I had a blast with
Black
DJ.
Lake.
Oh man, DJ kept me entertained the whole week. I think.
No, that was a good time. Good time. But no, so
lower man wins. I think he is right on that though. Yeah. That's what the football coaches always push.
Yep. But no. So other than that, looks like we're gonna have a warm up I mean, we've been sitting pretty cool. I've seen a lot of stuff on cameras last couple days. But looks like we're going to be warmed up going into that first weekend. I'm thinking I'm going to go sit maybe. But it's going to be afternoons. I'm not hunting any mornings. I don't know. What are you thinking for, that first part of October?
Hey, if you got the jitters and you want to get out there, you never know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a firm believer in that. But in my experience, this time of year, you're better off hunting afternoons. I mean, get your sleep, rest up for the rut.
Yep. Yeah, do some other stuff with the family too. I mean, if you got an apple pick,
hang out with the family, go to the apple shed, do whatever you got to do. Go out to the pumpkin patch, whatever you guys like to do.
Yep.
Do that in the morning. Do that early afternoon, and then get out there for at least the last 2 hours of light until the third week of October. That third week of October, we'll start changing your tune a little bit and start getting a lot less sleep.
Yep. Especially if you got those cold snaps and those fronts roll in. You get that
play
15.
The weather.
Yep.
Play the weather. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm kind of thinking.
The first 2 weeks of October, in my opinion, are just, it is what it is.
And again, I wouldn't be sitting, like you said last episode, I wouldn't be sitting your best stands, right now. No. Unless you had something,
you got something on the outskirts that's, unless you got a buck that is consistent every other day.
On a camera, cell cam sender, something like that. Yeah.
Something that you have pretty much locked and loaded, you're ready to pull the trigger. If you don't have anything like that, I would honestly just kind of hold back, kind of hunt the outskirts, hunt the wind right, your access, and just kind of see what happens. You never know. I mean, you might get lucky first week. I mean, I see posts of people getting it done.
Yeah. But, somebody's going to always shoot one.
Yeah. I mean, they're around. They're there.
They're in the woods 365.
Yeah. I mean, they're around. They're there. I mean, it's a possibility, but I mean, you don't want to bump them out. You want to hunt smart.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's what I would do for the first couple weeks. And then, I don't know, third week or so of October, third, fourth week, definitely start, especially closer to Halloween, start moving in on more of those
good mornings.
Good mornings, inner rut spots.
Yep.
And then definitely sit till at least 11.
Yeah, so you're saying, get in there. You're talking like where are you setting up in that morning time frame? What are you kind of looking at for that morning hunt spot when the time's right?
I guess. What do you mean? What am I looking for? Like weather wise?
Well, what stand? What kind of stand location are you saying you're going to wait till that morning sit to be sitting? That pre-rut morning sit.
I'm looking more for ridge sides, closer to bedding areas.
Mm-hmm.
I'm basically looking for. I mean, honestly, it's my stands all set up on the bedding areas that I think are around, or pinch points, or it depends on my topography of what I'm hunting. If there's a definite pinch point, I definitely want to sit the pinch point, because that mature buck is not going to go expose himself at 9 o'clock in the morning. He's going to go through that pinch point, and he's going to go over to the next bedding area to try and find a hot doe.
Mm-hmm.
So when you put yourself in a pinch point, that narrows down your shooting radius, and it also narrows down where that deer is going to go. So at least, if anything, you're at least going to get a sight on that deer.
Yep.
If you have a definite bedding area that you know of, I would definitely kind of like hang tight to it, because that's what those bucks are skirting. They're cruising around downwind. If you have a stand that's, in a good position, I mean, just those bucks that are cruising downwind of those bedding areas, that's what they're looking for. And then once they cruise the downwind spot, and if they get a whiff, they're going to cruise back into it, and they're probably going to loop back around, and you're probably going to get a second shot at that deer if you miss them the first time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Tangerine was a great example of that.
Tangerine was a ridge side. He was a semi-pinch point, because it's kind of a pinch point there on a very steep hillside, and it kind of plateaued where my stand is. And that's something where I think hunters overlook a lot, is when you're looking at a ridge side. And you know them deer go through that ridge side. Is a plateau on that ridge side. Them deer want to take the easiest path as possible, no matter what. It's just like humans. We don't want, if we can just, I don't, you know what I'm talking about. It's just easier. Take the easiest path as possible. So if there's a plateau, you're walking flat. You're not walking on your side.
Yep.
So if you have any ridge side that you're hunting that's fairly steep and there's a plateau or a semi-plateau on it, them deer are going to cross it.
Yep.
They're going to use it. So I would kind of consider setting up somewhere close to that, within bow range of that for sure.
Yeah. So with yours, I mean, that morning you could have your wind going up and out of the bottom with a thermal rise blowing out over, adjacent, property. Doesn't matter. It's all blowing up and out with a ridge system too in the mornings. You get your thermal rise, and you worked into those flat areas, or might be a bench. That was kind of a ridge top almost, kind of like a bench before it goes up onto the fields. Yeah. It was almost like a secondary bench on that property.
Yeah, it's a little more of a bench, and then it kind of goes up again on the alfalfa fields, then benches off again at the crest.
Yep. But again, like you said, that buck's not going to expose himself out across that field if he doesn't have to. He's going to hang in cover. He's going to hang on that flat of that bench where the trees are.
Also that morning, I heard rutting going on around me.
Yep.
When I was going in.
Mm-hmm. Chasing, grunting.
As soon as I got the stand, I got all set up and I got settled in, I could hear them around the area doing that. So I knew I was in
a good spot to be there.
I was there.
Yep.
I'm in it. It's just a matter of time. It was just a matter of him coming across and
the right buck you're looking for. Yep. 100%. So yeah.
And before that deer came up that I was looking for, I had a really nice 7-point. I mean, I guess he was probably 2.5 years old or whatever, but he was beautiful, beautiful rack. And I texted Ben. I was like, I don't know. I said, I might just regret not shooting him.
Yep.
I was like, the way my season's going and everything, I was like, I don't know. And then a half hour later, my bow buck popped the crowd. I was actually standing in my stand, rattling, making a bunch of movement, blah, blah, looking over my right shoulder, looking over my left shoulder, just looking around. And then all of a sudden, boom, there he was, right off to my left, right in front of me. And I'm just standing there with the rattlers in my hand. And I'm like, oh, my God. There he is. I just screwed everything up. He's staring right at me because I'm an idiot and standing here with these rattlers in my hand. He just put his nose right to the ground and just kept coming.
Yep.
So I just kept calm, grabbed my stuff, hung it up, grabbed my bow. Everything was knocked. I run a thumb release, so it was already on there. I draw back. He walked right through my shooting lane, and it was done. He went 40 yards and died.
Yeah.
He didn't care twice that I was there.
Yep. Yeah.
So he saw me. He knew I was there. He saw me rattling them antlers, acting like an idiot up in the stand while he's standing 50 yards away from me.
Yep.
He didn't care. He wanted that doe. Boom, nose to the ground.
Yep.
Kept coming.
Yeah.
That's how it got done.
So, and that was Tangerine. And that's why we grabbed Tangerine wheat before we before we left Crafty Ales tonight. We grabbed a Tangerine wheat. Got any more of that, or is it all gone?
I thought this was my little bit.
Well, that's your little bit.
Wow.
No. You killed Tangerine. You can have him. I'll grab a beer out of the bottom.
All right.
Or we do a bird dog. It's up to you. So I know Derek dropped in a couple comments on
Derek. I always start towards the bottom of the mountain in the morning. The wind mostly comes down the mountain in the morning and starts to switch in the afternoon.
I think a lot of that is the way the topography is out there, where it's still really cooling, so it's really pulling down in the mountain on the morning. And then once it starts to really heat up, a little after daylight, it starts pulling it back up.
Right.
So, I mean, we don't deal with, shoot, we were talking about this with my parents the other night.
First light. Derek says he's killed most of his game in first light.
Yeah. So we were talking about this with my parents the other day. You know, we're looking at some of these areas where we are.
Derek, I gotta say that's the opposite for me. I gotta say I kill more deer in the evening around here.
Midday. I've killed most of mine midday. For me.
You talking bucks or are you talking deer?
Bucks. I'll say bucks. Does afternoon every day. And does are almost a no-brainer in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. You find a group that's on a food source, dude. You could put anybody on them.
We're not just here trying to talk about killing big bucks.
No,
we're just talking about trying to kill deer.
Yep. Yeah,
and I definitely think afternoons are the most productive for killing.
Oh no, afternoon. You got afternoon food source with does on it. If you can get on that spot to hunt it effectively, you should be able to kill that night. I mean, look at the example when Liza killed her doe last year and I killed mine with a pistol. We went to 2 afternoon unpressured food sources and tagged 2 great mature does. Like clockwork, you know.
Oh, yeah, it's clockwork.
Yeah, for that.
Especially with a gun.
Yeah.
A little more difficult.
That levels the playing field a little bit more. For sure.
More difficult with that.
But yeah. And then Derek also said, if you guys had to pick mornings or evenings, what are you picking?
I'm picking evenings.
Evening guy? I think it all depends on season. Season and what you're, what you're doing.
If I'm out there to kill.
Evening food. Yeah.
If I'm out there to just kill
punch
something,
tags.
I don't care if it's a buck, doe, whatever. I'm just out there to shoot something, whether, for supper or whatever. Meat.
Yep.
A meat hunter. I'm going out evenings 100% of the time. I'm focusing on food, and I'm out there. That's what I'm doing. If I'm out there trying to kill a mature buck, I'm hunting during the rut between 7 and 3.
Yeah, that morning, midday. I mean,
morning, early afternoon, I'm sitting it.
Yep.
I think they're more active through there because they're cruising the bedding areas, and you got to focus on when the does go to bed. Them bucks, you're trying to find them does, and then when them bucks find a hot doe, and you see a buck pushing a doe, it's because he just probably pushed her out of a bedding area because she was sleeping.
Yep.
So he pushes her out, and it's probably after she went to bed. So when she goes to bed, it's between 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning. Or 6 and 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
So she goes to bed. He comes around. He sniffs her out downwind. Boop, boop. Pushes her out. Blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And then that all continues until 3 o'clock, until them does get back up and they want to go back on food.
Then you get different bucks coming on and hitting different does.
And then you have a whole different turnover because a mature buck really does not want to come out into an open space during daylight.
He wants to take her into the thickest, nastiest cover, dude, to breed her.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that afternoon during the rut, really, that late afternoon, really, I think is, me personally, I wouldn't say wasting your time, but it's.
Well, so I've seen also too.
The bucks just ain't coming out to feed. They're going to push them off. If you do see one, he's coming out there and chasing her out of the field. You're not going to get a great shot at him.
Yeah.
He's pushing her back into cover.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think especially those older bucks, I mean, you're going to have little bucks chasing them around the field for an hour in circles. That bigger, older buck, whatever that is for your area, whether it's a 4-year-old or even in some areas a 2-year-old, maybe a 3-year-old, is going to want to push her back to the thickest point of cover to lock her down to breed her during that 24 to 36 hours where she's going to be fertile.
He does not want to expose himself.
He doesn't want to share her either. So he wants to take her to the nastiest crap he can find and push her toward that, and that's what it is.
With that. I would definitely agree with that.
I love that breeding cover, dude. I talk about that all the time on properties with people, is that breeding cover. Where your buck died, beautiful breeding cover. I think I said that when we were gutting them.
That front, that south, like, I don't know what it is, 5 acres.
Where he was heading toward.
Yeah, it's all just thick buckthorn.
It's beautiful bedding cover.
Oh, it's
breeding cover.
It's honestly a sanctuary, and that's another topic we can get into is talking about people's sanctuaries and whether you run one or whether you don't. If you have a certain amount of property, you can hunt.
Yep.
Yep. I gotta step out for a second.
Alrighty.
I will be right back.
Alrighty. Fair enough. But yeah, so Derek says it's a nice time to get to your stand. I think that's actually a good point. We talked about that last episode too, with getting to your stands in that almost twilight morning hour, leading up to a spot, because where we hunt too in a lot of ag, fairly ag heavy areas, or properties that have a lot of ag on them, you almost need to let those fields clear out before you can get back to some of your stands, because the field might be on the front side of the property and you're hunting a wood block or a hedgerow on the back side of that property. So you might have to wait with the binoculars to let that field clear before you can even get to it. So a lot of times in that twilight, the morning I shot Outlaw right over here, I literally walked up to that food source in the morning, glassed it, waited 20 minutes for that field to clear, and I was on the stand. I think I was on the stand. That was before we had that half hour before shooting light. I was on the stand, I think, 20 minutes after legal shooting by the time I got to my stand, just because I had to wait for that food source to clear. I could get back into that cover, and I could set up when I was there to not spook the deer out. So I think that's a great time to get back to those stands, is that first thing in the morning, kind of cover, let the fields clear, let the area clear, all that kind of stuff. Just helps you be real successful with not bumping deer as a whole. So Liza says she tuned in on the Facebook side of it. She said evenings. Liza likes the evenings. Could be because that's where she's had the success. I know she came out and tagged a really nice doe out on First Trail out on our farm last year. Your wife's tuning in. She says evenings. Your wife says evenings are her favorite. And the conversation is in your hands because now it's my turn to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, apparently we've been drinking too many beers today. But evenings for my wife, in my opinion, she just doesn't like to get up in the morning. No, evenings are definitely, in my opinion, more successful depending on the time of year. I think early season, and then once you get into later season, you definitely want to focus more on food and hunting over that, and you will definitely have more success with that. So yes, evenings. But once you get into that third week of October to I would say the end of the third week of November, I would definitely try and plug in as many mornings as you possibly can, because you never know what can happen during the rut.
Switch the chairs?
We don't. Yeah, I don't know.
That's all right.
I was trying to read the comments over here. And
gotcha.
While you were gone.
Gotcha. I'll take my beer then. Thank you. Need one?
Yeah, give me one.
They're in the fridge. You're on the right side now. You can unplug that. It's got enough.
So, all right. So we should probably just switch back.
Switch back?
All right. I don't really know what you got working over here.
We're trying to be as technical savvy as we can be.
We're trying.
So, I figure I probably ought to check the bullhorn because we haven't checked that all night.
Oh, boy.
Probably Billy Harvey's over here. Dallas is over here. Nope, not a single Billy or Dallas. We have a listener on the bullhorn, though.
Well, thank you. Thank you for listening.
Single listener on the bullhorn app.
I hope you enjoy it.
Which is how this whole streaming trifecta works. So I can put it on bullhorn. it sends it right over to Facebook and right over to YouTube live all at the same time. So we can have all these different cool conversations with everybody, which I like a lot with it. So, but yeah. So anyway, Derek says I freeze my ass off in the stands. Also, late season, do you run heated vests, socks, etc.? Favorite snack? Ooh, snacks.
Ooh,
Had to talk about the snack.
Jerky. It's got to be meat sticks or jerky. You got to keep that protein rolling.
Yeah, so snacks in the stand. I've always liked peanut butter sandwich too, in a little sandwich baggie. Yeah. That's kind of been my go-to. But other than that, snacks. I do like my coffee on those cold mornings. There's I got a little screw-on. I don't even remember the brand. I got a little screw-on cup holder that I carry in my pack that goes on my tree stand that I can sit my little coffee thermos in. And it's like it's almost like a little fold-out chair cup holder, but it like screws onto the rail of my stand, so I can just set my coffee cup in it so it doesn't make any tink or clink sounds. That's nice on those cold mornings. I do like that.
Yeah. But I don't know. I don't really carry too many snacks with me. I honestly
apple.
Feel like no, not an apple, nothing like that. No, I mean maybe a granola bar or something, but I kind of feel like I thrive and I do better when I'm hungry. You know, I just kind of feel like pushing myself more, I guess. I don't know. Snacks in the stand are definitely good, and I'm sure a lot of people do them. I don't really bring a whole lot out with me.
Right. So a good comment off that snack thing is all day sits. I've never been a big fan of them. I've never done an all day sit. I've never done a dawn to dusk all day sit in one stand.
Me either. Nope.
Never have. I come out for lunch. I switch stands. I've literally gone from one stand, set up in another for a for a full day, but never sat one stand dawn to dusk. Ever.
Oh, no. Me either.
Not even like came back in for lunch and then went back out to the same stand. No.
I guess it'll depend on what I'm hunting. I mean, if you have a limited amount of property you're gonna hunt, I guess, yeah, I could see that.
But a lot of times, dude, you can move.
But it depends on the time of year, and it depends on a lot of things. I mean, the wind, the weather, what stand I'm gonna hunt. You know, is the sun gonna be high that morning and gonna be bright? If it's gonna be, then I want to be somewhere close to where it's gonna be hitting, so my thermals rise.
Yep.
And I don't know. It's a whole different. The
season moves and changes, and you got to move and change with it too to some points.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah,
definitely a good way of putting it.
But yeah, so that's definitely something where, and I mean for the heated vests, stuff like that. I like my duffel bag, my scent crusher duffel bag I put in my truck. Like that kind of almost stays warm because I can keep it in my house, and run it or whatever.
I don't run heated anything.
No socks. I mean, I don't run like a battery heated anything.
I run a couple hot packs.
Hot packs and a hand
pockets.
Muff. Hand muff is my
I don't run a
thing.
Hand muff. I put them in my pockets just to warm my hands up. Just be ready for the shot. I don't really struggle so much with my feet or really anything getting cold. My hands will. I guess that's why I run the hot pack. But Derek's in a little different.
That's different though, man. Them are huge temperature swings, big elevation.
That's Dakota. Yeah,
it's Idaho.
Or Idaho. Right? It's a little different.
Yeah, that's cold. That's colder stuff out there. I mean, dude, we're in we're in late September, and he's talking about 20s in the morning when he wakes up. Which they're calling for.
Derek, you run a wood stove?
They're calling for frost in Naples Friday morning.
What?
Yeah. They're calling for a frost in Naples on Friday morning.
Hey.
Last day of September, man. So Derek's running that wood stove.
Derek is running the wood stove.
But again,
how many cords of wood did it take you to... oh, there he is.
How do you know you were going to go that way with it?
He already knew it.
So those are full cords, not face cords.
So that's 4.
Yeah.
4 face cords.
But they don't have as much hardwood out there. It's a lot of softwood, for their stoves. So it's different. But
so it burns through a lot more.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah. So anyway, there's a couple things that I jotted down. I know we talked about a lot of stuff. We hammered it pretty good.
Yeah, we were kind of all over the place in this podcast,
which is fine. That's what it's all about. Is we'd lean into one topic and then kind of roll into another, everything like that. Which is why I think this works so good, and why a lot of people comment in.
Derek's
on Facebook.
Number one fan. We got to get like a T-shirt made up and just send it to
number
Derek.
One fan. Have it made up for
number one fan. Whiskey and Whitetails. Let him.
Yeah, for when he gets here next week.
Yeah. Let him show it off.
Mm-hmm. So, no, but I like the back and forth and being able to roll with the conversation. It pulls a lot more people into it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
DJ, that was out of left field.
DJ Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
That guy.
Yep. So, a couple things with this going forward. I know you and me were talking tonight at Crafty's about this a little bit, about where to kind of take these videos and stuff going forward with it. And we talked about, I think, just having these conversations with, other guys that we've, that we grew up hunting with or hanging out with and stuff like that, just to get at those other opinions in it, because I think that's really helpful. I know you brought up a couple people. I brought up a couple people that, might come on and stuff like that. And just keeping it real applicable to everybody. Because, between you and me and the guys we hunt with, that's your everyday group of hunters. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
We're not filming for TV shows on 10,000 acre ranches and,
Mm-hmm.
This is it's about as blue collar hunting as you kind of get, with permission ground, some owned ground.
We're doing everything as cheap as possible. We're not privileged in any way possible. Us and our friends, we're just out there doing it, trying to have fun because we love it.
Yep. And along the way, we picked up a lot of stuff that helps each other, and we talk about that with each other about what we're seeing, what we're doing, all that stuff like that. On our properties. So we're always talking to each other, want to learn from each other's hunts, want to learn from each other's experiences, because that's what's going to help you be a better hunter. So when you see a situation, you can go, yeah, I remember when, Nate was talking about that, or Jesse was talking about that deer that was coming into that field like that, mm-hmm. and being able to apply it to, what you're doing.
Yep. You can always learn from someone else, whether it's good or bad.
Mm-hmm. You learn from the pluses or the bads, for sure.
Oh, yeah. If someone does something negative and you realize that, you're going to learn from it and be like, wow,
I don't want to do that.
You probably shouldn't have done that. But if someone,
had success with it.
Had success, you might try and apply that to a situation that you've been in. Derek, $300.
All red fir.
Yeah, red fir.
Only hardwood is birch. A cord of red fir is $175 to $300. Fir. Jeez,
that's what I buy at Lowe's for my 2x4s.
So that's cool. He says he cuts all his wood on a public land with a wood permit. So you can get a wood permit out there to go cut wood on public land.
That's cool.
That's cool. Because here,
how much is the permit, Derek?
Yeah, so I mean, around here, you can't cut anything on public.
No,
You can't cut a branch for a shooting lane.
Nah, they'll put you right to the bars.
Yep, literally. So that's crazy. So I know when we camped out Redfield Reservoir, when I went up there for fishing trips, we could only take
dead,
dying, or standing dead wood. $20 for a permit for standing wood cutter.
Shit, $20 ain't nothing.
It's better than $300 for a cord all day. But yeah. Well, we're getting to be 8:45. Anything on this list tickle your fancy, or anything that you think you want to talk about, Nate? I mean, that's just some thoughts I had throughout this week, questions I had come in from people, stuff like that. I started jotting it down, as it comes in for the week.
Right. I mean, tree stands.
I mean, mine are pretty much set.
Yeah. I mean, my tree stands are set. I hunt the same pieces about every year. I'm not hunting a new piece this year. So
what if you were hunting a new piece?
Oh, it's topography. I would go in there and I would look at Onyx. I would look at the topography and I would try and get a rough scale of what I'm working with. And then after that, I'm looking at pinch points, bench shelves. What else in this area do you come across?
Little saddles, little dips in the ridge. Yep,
saddles in the ridge, points. Yeah, and then actually going and viewing the property and seeing
what it looks like,
what kind of crops are on the field. So that always plays a big play in everything. What kind of crop? You got corn, beans, and hell, I hunted a property that had butternut squash on, I don't know, probably
asparagus,
30 acres asparagus.
We get some weird crops here in the Finger Lakes.
So, yeah, I mean, it all depends on what crops are on the ground and my approach. I mean, it's all getting analyzed up in my head, and trying to figure it out, but also taking, my basis of what I know and what I know is right, and just trying to build off of that to what I have.
How early do you like to set your stands? If you know the piece, or if you just got the piece?
A month. I think deer are completely fine with it after a month, as long as you're not in there every other day or every week. I don't really think it's a big deal. You go in there and you figure out a rough spot, you find a tree, you slap it up, and you hunt it and scout it for a year, and then you can fine tune it from there.
So, like Derek says, when you have a stand set and cleared, do you revisit it before the season or wait? Usually, when I have, especially established stands.
Is he talking about a brand new stand?
Okay, so brand new stand is a little bit different.
Derek, is this a brand new stand you're talking about, or a stand
you've been on a piece?
You've been on a piece for a little bit.
Yeah. So I mean that depends a little bit.
It says set your stand.
Yep. So let's just say new piece of property.
So I set that stand. Well, we hunt private.
Yes, new, brand new.
Okay. Brand new piece.
Brand new piece. So
at least a month ahead of time.
I'd like to get it in there a month ahead of time. And a month ahead of time, where that means I'm not going back in, if at all possible. So I'm getting that in there August at some point. I really like to try to stay off of my stand locations, especially like
your set ones.
My really set ones in August. I don't like to go in there past
the ones
August.
You're hunting Halloween till mid-November.
I almost want those soaking 2 months, literally.
Yeah, you don't even really want to touch them until.
So, but like a new piece, new property,
mid-October.
If you got permission on a property right now, I would, like Nate said, get on Onyx, get a topo map up, scout it out from the air, have an idea of where you want to be. You might not be able to pick out that specific tree, But if you can get in that ballpark with
General
that brand new
area.
spot, you know,
And you can set yourself up pretty good once you get in there.
you can get in pretty close. And again, the thing I would say that I see, you know, that kind of dipping into the consulting side of what I do, I see a lot of guys set right up on those stand intersections. I'm talking like, dude, I see a lot of guys set up 5 yards from trails with their stands.
I don't like that.
I got to
like
be
to
20
be
yards, 20, 25 yards.
I like to be at least 15 plus.
Yeah, I like to be 20, 25 yards at least from those trails. You know, you don't have to be right up on that movement.
15 to 25, I mean, that's a chip shot with a bow.
And if you're in there setting up that stand, especially if you're in there a couple months ahead of time, you can backtrack or forward track those trails a little bit. Even though the topography looks good, you might be able to do a little bit of speed scout when you're in there. Go, let's just say a trail goes to the east and west, you go to the west, you go to the east, and you find a spot that works better for your access. Might not be the topography feature you saw on the map, but it might be that the access works better, or where another trail comes into that spot that you didn't see. And that's where you can kind of start to branch out from these locations you pick out on a map and really fine tune where that stand goes along that line of movement of a trail or a ridge, whatever it might be. So, I think that's the big thing is don't get too close to the sign. Don't set up right on top of it. I can't tell you how many spots, dude, I've been to on client pieces where the trails are going right underneath their stand and they're set up right in that big cross intersection.
Yeah, you don't want to be on the stand and you don't want to be on the field.
Yep.
If you're hunting a field, you don't want to be on it.
You got to give yourself a little
if you're
buffer.
Hunting a trail in the woods, back yourself off at least 15 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Derek says, will you go? Hell yeah. I'll make a mock scrape as soon as I plop that stand up.
Every stand.
No problem.
Just about every stand.
I'll plop one within 20 yards of it.
Mm-hmm.
10 to 20 yards of it every time.
Yeah, so
just try and get an inventory and see what hits it.
It's a good spot for what I like to do with my 1 year rule, for stand locations or for certain areas of a property with those mock scrapes. I don't do a lot of mock rubs. I don't put a whole lot on rubs unless there's a scrape there and I can get both in the picture. But the mock scrapes I think are huge, especially by stand locations. If nothing else, even if the deer doesn't sit there and physically work the scrape, slows them down for a shot or an opportunity for a shot, Or what I also do in those situations, like we talked about, where you have a multiple of trails coming together by a stand location. If I find another mock scrape when I'm in there setting that stand or scouting, if I find another scrape branch or something that could be a scrape branch in like November or October, when I'm cutting my shooting lanes, I cut that thing right off. The only place I want that deer to scrape within 100 yards of that stand is 20, 25 yards of my stand.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep, I agree with that. Definitely agree with that.
Because basically you're making
if you have any competition around your scrape where you want that deer to scrape,
mm-hmm.
and there's a scrape nearby, just chop it off.
Yep.
He will find your scrape.
Yep.
He will smell it. He will search it out and be like, oh, okay, what happened here? I got to go find something else. He will.
Yep.
Especially
on that same line of movement.
Because terrain changes all the time, and those deer adapt all the time.
So I would rather, and I've done this before, on a trail system. I mean, you've seen the farm with some of our big, long linear trails we have on it. Have multiple scrapes. Half a dozen scrapes going down some of those trails, like second trail, third trail, stuff like that. Now, the only scrapes that I have cameras on them.
I like that question.
We going? Oh no,
18
the last
plus one. There. Stand height 18 plus. Or does it depend on location? Well, yes. Yes, it does. Also depend on location.
Cover.
There's cover. There's hillside.
Backside.
If you're
cover.
on a hillside, just throw a 15-footer up. 15-foot ladder stand, and
mm-hmm.
I mean, you're probably good. But honestly, I mean, overall, as a good judgment, I would try and stay at 18 foot plus.
I do really like that 18-foot line. That
The
18 or 20.
foot plus, 18 to 20 foot plus, no matter whether you're on a ridge or whether, however your stand's located, I would try and stay at least 18 foot above the deer.
Yeah, if at all possible, absolutely.
I know it's not always possible, but that 18-foot mark definitely seems to make a difference with them locating you and everything else.
And I like clump trees that obviously have more cover, beech trees, oak trees, stuff like that. Another one that a lot of people don't really look at or value in our area is we have a lot of invasive European buckthorn, and that holds its leaves ridiculously late into early October. Yep. We need. Oh,
I got it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, let's keep doing
and what that does is gives you a lot of front cover and a lot of side cover in some of your stands, because some of these buckthorns are getting up there 15, 20 foot, like stand height. So I like looking at some of those spots where you might have some buckthorn, and a lot of times I won't cut them out, or I'll cut little sides or slots on them for shooting lanes, but I'll leave a majority of the tree.
Yep.
You know, just so you have that extra cover. I think the cover aspect almost is more important than the height aspect. But I definitely would prefer that 18-foot plus, like you said, for the height.
18-foot plus, and I love, was it birch or beech?
Beech. You're thinking beech with the brown leaves hanging late?
Yes.
Yep.
Beech. The beech. Definitely love
Fagus
them.
Americana.
They hang a lot longer. If you can set your stand around them, well, you'll definitely have more back cover later in the season.
Actually, it's Fagus granifolia. Sorry, I messed up the scientific name. But anyway.
I feel like you're like calling me a bad name or something with Fagus granifolius. But I don't know. Ben's a scientific guy here.
That's just me putting my thousands of dollars of college to some use on a beer drinking podcast, whiskey and beer drinking podcast on a Wednesday night.
Yeah. I went to college and majored in Busch Light, but either way, Ben at least Ben gained something from his college experience.
Yeah, Fagus granifolia. That's all we got.
Derek says, "Isn't that aspen?"
Fagus granifolia? No, I'm pretty sure it's beech. I'm gonna have to Google that now. Derek might be calling me out.
Oh, Derek's calling you
out. So Fagus granifolia is actually American beech.
American beech, Derek.
It's okay.
The fag tree is beech.
I guess.
No, it's beech, he says. Yep.
We had a question come in on the Facebook Live. It says, how about access to stands in and out?
Access? Who brought that up?
Brian Arbogast.
Arbogast.
Brian Arbogast.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
All right.
Asking about the access. I mean, we talk about it. Access is everything. Doesn't matter.
Access is number one. That defeats weather. That defeats everything. I mean, access, when you set a stand, you really need to be thinking about how you're going to get to it and not blow deer off of it, number one, especially if it's in the middle of a property.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess.
And a lot of it, I think,
tune down what Brian was asking. What does he mean by access?
I think he's talking about accessing to these stands that we're looking at. Maybe it looks like it lines up right about when Derek was saying, your new stand sets. So access is what I look at first with new stands or old stands.
Yes.
It might be a specific side of a property, or we've talked about this before, where you basically cut a property in half and designate a center of it with a farm road or something to be the dividing line, and then you access off of that accordingly, or whatever it might be. But the access has to be, first before you even, go pick those stand spots. It is a good point by Brian to bring it up that it's access. You have to be able to get to that stand that you find on a
without
map.
blowing them out.
Yep.
Yeah, Brian's 100% right.
Yep. So, I mean, there are those spots if you have a killer spot November 6th in the middle of a property that you've hunted forever and you want to go roll the dice on November 6th. However, you could just as easily roll the dice and roll that buck right off onto your neighbor. It happens. So I would say...
it's a gamble whenever you go out, in my opinion.
I mean, even if you say that it's a good access or it's a, quote, mostly deer-free access, there's always a chance you're going to run into
You're going to run into them, and you're going to bump them on your neighbor. There's always that chance.
Mm-hmm.
But like we were talking about in the last episode, is optimizing your chances.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we want to do.
Yep. Get the most.
To optimize your chance, you need to figure out roughly if you're hunting a specific buck, or I feel like Brian was talking about just access on a new stand, new property is kind of what it sounded like he was feeding off of.
Yep.
How do you get in there and just cause the least disruption as possible, and just learn the property for a year?
Mm-hmm.
I guess is my
stay on the edges. Don't plunge right in the middle of it.
Right. Just figure out roughly the normal deer movement. If you have a good take on some deer movement, move in a little bit. But honestly, if it's a new property and you're trying to learn it and you don't want to kick any deer off of, and you're learning some access, just figure out the deer movement. Where are they coming from? Where are they going to? What are the normal trails that they use? I honestly would take a year to scout it out, and then after that, I would kind of move more in, and then fine tuning your access to the inner portions of that property, and trying to dial in the best access point that you can,
mm-hmm.
without bumping those deer that you want there while you're hunting. And
again, sometimes that's taking a very long way around.
I mean,
or asking another neighbor for permission to access there. I mean, if you can think of it, I've probably tried to do it.
Asking another neighbor for access because most of them won't give it to you. But
it depends. Yeah. Most of them won't, though, especially if they're hunting neighbors. No, they're not going to give you access to it, even though it would make their property hunt better too. But anyway.
Brian, that's how I've always done things. That's my way around avoiding talking to people. I just take the extra year to try and figure out my access and what the deer are doing.
Yep, flesh it out a little bit
instead of trying to talk to the neighbors and dealing with people.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes any sense to you.
No, and I hope
it does.
And no matter what you do to a property, whether you do improvements to it, food plots, bedding areas, anything like that, there's going to be 2 or 3 spots on a property that just naturally set up for good spots without doing anything.
Well, that goes back to looking at
topography and other features. Yep. You're going to have 2 or 3 spots on a property that are going to work without doing any improvements. So it's finding those right spots that you can access is where you can make the most right out of day one on a new property.
So I got an interesting situation at a property that I have permission on that I don't really hunt. A lot of my family does. I don't really focus on that property for my hunting, but my brother, my cousins, and my grandfather do. It actually comes down in a Y, and what I mean by that is that it's got 2 pinch points that come down, and I'm trying to figure out. I was sitting there looking at it, I'm like, what is the best scenario to set up there in the rut and then pinch points? And on top of it, it's all swamp. So it's swamp with 2 pinch points. How are them deer going to move in swamp and pinch points? Because, no deer is going to go. You might get some deer in some high points in a swamp that bed down for the evening, but I don't think that deer are going to actually sleep in a swamp.
Depends on pressure. I think a lot of times with
They're not going to sleep in water.
Oh yeah, I've seen them sleep right in the standing water, dude, with high pressure on the sides.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Again, it depends on how much crazy pressure they're getting, though. Do they want to? No. No deer wants to sleep in standing water, but I've literally seen deer get bumped across the Erie Canal and then bed in swamp on the far side. It just depends on pressure. I mean, it's all relative, but obviously they're going to slant to those high points you talked about in a swamp and stuff like that. But do they want to bed in it? And if there's low hunting pressure, no, they're not going to bed in standing water. They're going to go to someplace else adjacent that they can bed, where it's higher, drier, and they got some browse and stuff like that in their bedding areas. I think.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's a good point. That's definitely a good point, but it comes down as a why, and it comes down, and I'm almost thinking that a decent standpoint would be right in the center of that Y, because the bottom of that Y is,
both movements
south,
coming down. Yep.
It's south of most of the property, so, and it'd be honestly easy access minus the swamp, but I don't know.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it.
I was curious about your opinion on it. I was curious about anybody else on here, if they had any opinions on it. I would almost like to set it right in the center of that Y and see what comes off of both pinch points.
Yeah.
But then again, it's all basically standing water. It looks good, but is it good?
Yep. So I have access through, marshy. Marsh is even worse than, I guess, swamp woods, which is, I kind of think what you're talking about. So with the swamp woods, I mean, I've put knee boots on. I mean, not knee boots, but like waders, like thigh waders. Because you can get into some deep spots in those, swamp woods that are.
Oh, hell yeah.
And out in marsh ground, like out on some of the state ground I've hunted, I would not even trust, hip waders. Because you could hit a pocket in that cattail, dude, and you just go right to your freaking chest, literally. I think you could access through the swamp, fairly easy. That's fairly, like you said, if there's low hunting pressure, that's fairly deer-free access.
Accessing it isn't a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because
you access and then blow.
It is all grass field. It's all hay field. And then you just have to cut
into the swamp
on one side or the other of that rectangular block that comes off the road.
Mm-hmm.
To the east or to the west. I mean, accessing it isn't a problem. It's just hunting those pinch points is what I'm trying to get at.
Right.
And is it actually going to be beneficial to hunt those pinch points with that standing water?
I think
because
so.
I mean, if we got these people maybe possibly looking at this and they're like, oh, okay, well, I got a couple pinch points here.
Yep. Where hardwoods comes down into swamp,
narrows down, and then it's just all swamp. But a standing water, is it even worth it?
Yep. So I would say that if there's that feature that is going to make that natural pinch or that bottleneck, whatever term you want to use with it, coming out of one habitat type to another, I would set it. Standing water in a swamp, they'll walk through it. I would say they'd walk through it. Are they going to bed in it? No, but that's fine because I would almost want to blow my scent over that standing water swamp and then hunt. Let's just say we had a west wind.
Early morning, definitely, because your scent's going to rise.
Yeah, right? Yeah. You could definitely see a rise on that swamp. I mean,
as long as all that steam's coming off in the morning, that's your thermals rising.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep. No, that's a good point. If the ground's warmer than the air, absolutely, it's going to push that up. But no, I definitely would like to hunt those situations, and I wouldn't say standing water because, let me think. I'm trying to think what deer it was. That one I shot on my grandma's, that 8-pointer I shot with my shotgun on grandma's, right up to his brisket, his legs were like mud covered and wet. Mm-hmm. So he had gone through a swamp or standing water at some point before I got a crack at him that day. So they'll walk through it, and if you have that cover where it pinches down into that bottleneck like you're talking about, I wouldn't hesitate to hunt it, especially if there's a good topography feature or that habitat change that happens there just right around a good stand spot. I would love to hunt a funnel like that from hardwoods to swamp. I think that's a dynamite spot if you got the access and the wind for it. Yep.
Good to know.
So,
Derek says, here's a controversial question.
oh geez,
you guys' thoughts on moon phases? Oh boy. I definitely think there's more deer movement on full moons and the moon, waning and all them other moons that are more full. I definitely think there's more deer movement. Other than that, I don't really focus too much on the moon phases. I'm more of a weather guy. I kind of focus more on what the weather's doing, temperature drops,
pressure spikes,
and yeah, more of that. I'm definitely more of a weather hunter than I am moon phases, but I do think that there is slightly a little more movement during full moons and around that time, for sure, Derek.
So with the moon phase relation to it, I'm gonna kind of spin off of the full moon thing. I'm not a big moon phase guy at all. I mean, very little.
Grab two.
I know you were looking for one.
Derek's running us late.
But
that's fine, Derek. Love talking to you.
So with the moon phase of it, I think it just more ties into the way that they're feeding at night, with that overnight feeding. So I think with the longer moon exposure, the longer light available, for their eyes to be able to stock up in that evening, midnight feeding, I see a lot of good activity in that mid-morning to midday movement, almost because they get back to their beds later and then they get up almost a little bit earlier for that kind of mid-morning, early afternoon feeding. That's where I kind of lean on it a little bit with that. So that's it. That's kind of the way I look at the moon phase with it. I don't look at it like, oh, this is I've heard the term red moon. I don't even know what a red moon is. I couldn't tell you. But I've seen the full moon affect kind of the deer movement in an area that it kind of almost moves it back into the daylight more. So you get more of that mid-morning activity off of a full moon, movement the night before. And again, that's only as, available as the cloud cover. If you got a full moon and then full cloud cover, you're not going to see it. What's up?
Derek's bringing in children into deer movement.
Hey, we're all animals, man.
Derek, my wife's probably going to kick my ass when I come over saying this, but definitely I think moon phases affects women. I don't really think so much about children yet. Mine's still only a month old, so I haven't gotten that far yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely think moon phases might affect the females a little more than the males.
Could be. I've never put a calendar to it. Couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah, if the next time there's a full moon, Ben, maybe pay attention to how your wife reacts to you.
Yeah, it's something good to figure out. I need to get one of them little moon charts, one of the little moon dials. I mean, I've had one of those moon dials.
It happens once a month. I mean, you should probably,
well,
dial
yeah,
that in.
Yeah,
especially in your hunting. I mean, you don't really like
the full moon.
I mean, I definitely think the full moon I would prefer to hunt over a even over weather. A little bit, maybe a little bit.
Like I said,
if you have the right weather with a full moon, like there's snow on the ground, it's
midday.
snowing, like that big fluffy slow shit,
and
then
mid-morning rut. Oh, dude, yeah,
super with a cold, full moon,
super cold cross.
I mean, it's dynamite.
If it lines up with that,
you can't lose.
Yeah,
I mean, you might not see anything, but I mean, it
during
happens. But
during a full moon, it seems like animals are on more high alert. I've never.
Well, yeah, it's later out. Predators are more apt.
More light exposure. Yeah,
they're more susceptible to predators.
Or I would say much more active. So I'd say they're much more active during the daylight, almost because the prey animals we're pursuing are almost pushed into that next feeding because they can take a longer feeding period at the nighttime, where it almost slides the scale. You know what I'm saying? It slides that next feeding that the deer have to do into that later time where we're going to be hunting them during the daylight. It's just what I've noticed. Sometimes that might be they get back, they can get on a field super early, get a really early like daybreak feed, and then I've seen them the morning after that full moon or leading up to that full moon out on food sources at like 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, because that feeding schedule gets thrown off because of the amount of light that they have at night. I've seen that too, in my observations and stuff, with the deer kind of feeding on different food sources as it goes through a different.
And does the predator pressure have something to do with hunting the full moon, getting the deer up and moving?
I could definitely see that. I could see that a lot more on shifting off of properties that have a lot of hunting pressure. I could see them, and a lot of people will say that, I hate this thing. People say a deer is nocturnal. I mean, this is going to be this is a little controversial thing. I hear it all the time. People are like, oh, that deer is nocturnal. He's just nocturnal on your property. The deer has to get up and move during daylight. It's not like he just sits in his bed for, 18 hours a day and goes, well, the sun went down, it's time to move. That's not how it works. He's just not on your property during daylight. Could be pressure. Could be he's just got better cover. It might have nothing to do with your pressure.
He's eating, so he has to eat.
Better food there.
He has to eat.
Daylight food, yeah. So he's got to get up and feed. They got to feed, 3, 4, 5 times during a day.
You want to know why he got that big? Because nobody knows he's there.
Possible.
Nobody knows he's there.
It's quite possible.
That's my opinion on that.
Quite possible. But no. So full moon. I mean, that's definitely, there's a lot of guys, dude, that I know a lot of guys personally, dude, that live or die by that moon dial. And they'll only hunt field edge on this moon phase with this day. I mean, a lot of people call me crazy for drawing up all my 1-year rules on a whiteboard and doing it like that. I mean, you can find data.
Well, I mean, data's data. I mean, that's great data. 1-year rule. Derek's saying here that, deer get hit by cars at night a lot more. Yeah, I would agree with that. I would think that deer are a little more nocturnal, depending on the conditions that humans have made them in. Yeah, so if you're hunting them, that's why you see more deer in the evening. That's why you see more deer in the early mornings, depending on the rut, because I do believe that
you throw some of that right out the window.
Yeah, I mean, like that's going during the rut. Nothing really matters unless you're hunting does, which no one's hunting does during the rut. So you need to be hunting the bucks. So the does are in bed at 7. So yeah, I would agree with that. I would say that deer are a little nocturnal, but I think humans made them that way. I don't think that they're naturally nocturnal.
I think the reason a lot of deer get hit at night by cars is that if you look at like an activity graph of people on roads, let's just say 75% of that is during the daylight for the most part on a roadway. 25% is at night. So if you were assuming that is a danger, would you be more apt to move when there's only 25% of predators out or 75% of predators out while you're moving across a roadway or around a specific area? You see, this is why I think a lot of people, perceive a deer as nocturnal, or, a lot of deer get hit at night. I think it's just because there's a lot less of a chance of a human interaction, and why the deer slant toward heavier pressured properties at night, or let's just say getting hit by a car at night, because they're willing to take that 25% chance over the 75% chance. That's just kind of the way my head works with it.
Yeah, could be.
And then Derek says, would you say deer are more crepuscular? So Derek's digging into his college degree bag of tricks.
What is crepuscular? Can you explain for us less educated people?
So crepuscular is meaning the dawn and the twilight times of the day, the dawn and the dusk times of the day.
Yes, I would agree with that 100%.
Yep. So I think that revolves around.
But I'm not out there, and I don't have nocturnal vision. I'm not out there hunting, all night, and I'm not out there all day. I mean, I have cameras that can give me a rough judgment, and that rough judgment definitely leans toward crepuscular.
Yep.
Whatever you're saying.
So the crepuscular is the more being active during dawn and dusk, during those twilight hours. And they've had radio collared studies that support that as well. The reason I think the deer are more slanted to being crepuscular is the way their eyesight works, with the way that they pick up their different shades and colors and the way they do. Their eyes work extremely well at that time of night or that time of day. And the other thing is it feeds into those main feedings that those deer have to take in a 24-hour period, is why I think the crepuscular hours are so, utilized by deer during their movement
Crepuscular.
patterns.
Well, so, I learned something in this podcast. I hope someone else did throughout the duration of this thing. Crepuscular. A crepuscular animal is one that is active primarily during the twilight period, being
maturital,
vespertine,
or both.
Jesus Christ, Derek. All right. Well, thank you, Derek, for
the ecology lesson.
Yes, that was great.
Knocked it out of the ballpark. Oh, jeez.
Love it.
You should see my mom's comment. She just dropped on the Facebook.
Crepuscular.
Yeah. No, it's not.
On crepuscular?
No, it's not.
Crepuscular sounds like something moon. I would order at a fine Italian restaurant that had to do with seafood.
My mom says full moon and females, ... A topic for the whiteboard.
I love it. She knows it. Terry knows it. She knows I'm right.
Well, I think now that you say that, I think my mom used to joke that when she used to work on the maternity floor at Newark for all those years, the full moon, the hospital went nuts, and
full moons brings the babies,
and the hospital goes nuts.
Yeah,
a lot of stuff crazy happens during those full moons and stuff. But no, dude, I think we hammered it pretty good tonight.
Derek, we got to get you on this show. I mean, kick me off and just bring you on. I think you're like the main man here.
I think Derek needs to definitely make that guest appearance.
We got like 6 views and 2 comments. This is great.
And it's all Derek.
It's all Derek. Derek, I think you should be the man.
That's just the YouTube one you're looking at.
I'll just sit back and drink beer and watch Derek go.
But yeah, so
I would love that.
No, Facebook's all good. YouTube is the Derek streamline. He's almost like our moderator for this whole thing. He just keeps the topics coming.
Yeah, he does.
And flowing
you
and
boys
just rolling.
Killed it. I'll see you guys next week. Love you, Derek.
Love you, buddy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That is beautiful, positive support.
Yep. So I think we need to do a bird dog blackberry and call it a night, because we're just closing in almost on that 2-hour mark. This is the longest. This is the longest one we've done. It doesn't feel like it does.
Things were supposed to be an hour long. Then they always go to like hour 40, 2 hours.
Well, we have such good topics.
I know. I mean, Derek. I mean, it's just the 3 of us, but it's great.
Yeah. But Derek says he'll be in New York on the 4th or 5th. So that's
Derek, what are you coming in New York for?
He'll be here. He's got family
For
stuff
what?
going on.
Oh, family stuff. Okay.
Family stuff going on.
All right. Well, if it's personal, I apologize.
If we can,
but yeah, looking forward to seeing you.
Yep, we'll be around
and having a few beers and enjoying life. I mean,
name of the game, man.
But the 5th. Let's see here.
Yeah, that's next. That's next. Like
so that means you got to bring
Monday.
Derek out
It's Monday.
to go hunting on the 8th.
8th is Thursday. 8th would be next Thursday. No, never mind.
No.
Hold on. October 5 would be Wednesday, and then the 8th, you're right, would be that Saturday following. It's also youth weekend that weekend.
Derek, don't listen to Ben. I'm usually right.
Sorry.
So Ben's got to bring you out hunting on the 8th.
I told you, over the counter.
If he can't do anything for you, come hunting with me and we'll figure it out.
Yep. We'll get Derek on the podcast. Actually, that would be a good one if we can get Derek on the 5th, next Wednesday. That'd be awesome. Give Nate a break.
Give me a break.
That's fine. I'm good with it.
No, I like talking with everybody on here, and I hope
this continues, man. This is great. I love this.
I hope people actually like listening in.
Yep.
What we have to say. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But
so yeah,
it is what it is.
Yeah. 5th through the 10th, Derek will be in town.
We look way better on that camera.
It's the same camera.
One. No, it's not.
It's the same camera.
All right, go back to the other one.
Nate, it's the same camera, dude. It's just a smaller version of it.
Okay, we look all right. See, that one.
It's the same camera.
Yeah, it's the same camera. I get that, but this view looks better than that view. You're getting my good side, not my bad side.
Okay. All right. So we started the night with Bird Dog Blackberry. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. The next episode will be Southern Zone archery season will be open.
Yeah,
maybe
archery season will be open. It's gonna be tough. Hopefully, we'll do a postpone because there's a blood trail that we got to go follow between.
I would love that. Yep.
In our group, but otherwise, I think we'll be here.
Yeah, hopefully next Wednesday. Derek.
It might be in the deer shed though.
It might be in the deer shed.
We do need to do a deer shed appearance because we brought it up, and
I think the deer shed. I'm kind of
curious if anybody's curious what the deer shed is.
I think it'd be
drop
a good one.
Comment and we could switch it over.
Yeah, we could rig up the camera and all the stuff, the laptop. We got Wi-Fi out there. We could run it right from out there. No problem.
I think when Derek's up, he needs to experience the deer shed.
I think Derek deer shed next Wednesday, as long as we're not following a blood trail or something crazy with the weather, going on.
Well, I think Derek would agree. He'd rather follow a blood trail. I think he agrees with all that.
Yeah, 100%. So here's to next week, 5th, but hopefully in the back of our minds, a postponed. Whitetails and Whiskey. Thank you all for tuning in. Catch you all next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.